It was supposed to be a peaceful hike, a way to enjoy the fresh air and the beautiful views, but everything changed in an instant. I never saw it coming. Robert, my husband of 38 years, the man I thought I could trust more than anyone, pushed me off that mountain cliff. My body tumbled, my mind raced, and for a moment everything went dark. When I woke up, I was alone, battered, and confused, but somehow alive. The pain in my body was nothing compared to the shock I felt in my heart. Why would Robert do this? What had I done wrong? I struggled to my feet, clutching the sharp rocks for support, and looked around. The world seemed so distant, so cold, as if I was the only one left in it. It took everything I had to climb down that mountain. I knew I had to get back, to face whatever was waiting for me, but nothing prepared me for what I would find when I returned home. The house that had once felt warm and full of life was now empty, cold, and unrecognizable. Robert was gone, and in his place was a note that shattered everything. I never imagined this betrayal. I never imagined it would end like this. The house was eerily silent when I walked through the front door. The smell of the place was different, colder somehow, as if everything had been drained of life. My heart ached as I stood in the entryway, staring at the empty space where Robert's keys used to be on the table. It felt like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I moved through the house slowly, each step heavy with the weight of what had happened. His things were gone. His jacket, his shoes, the picture frames we had once placed together, gone. There was no trace of him, except for the note. I opened it, my hands trembling, and the words inside felt like a slap to my face. I'm done. This is over. That was all it said. No explanation. No apology. Just cold finality. It took me a moment to breathe again, the weight of it all pressing down on me. I looked around, unsure of what to do next. My heart raced as I tried to process everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I had. The life I'd built, the love I'd given, it all seemed to be slipping through my fingers like sand. I sat there for what felt like hours, the note still in my hands, as my mind struggled to make sense of it all. I had given everything to this marriage, to this man, and now, it felt as if I had been nothing more than a shadow in his life. The emptiness of the house reflected the emptiness I felt inside. I started walking through the rooms, each one filled with memories that now felt foreign. Our bedroom, where we had spent so many nights together, was a hollow space without him. The bed that once seemed like a sanctuary now felt like a reminder of all that was lost. My eyes scanned the shelves, the photos, the little trinkets we had collected over the years, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it had all been a lie. I thought of all the times I had waited for him to come home, the nights I had spent alone, always hopeful, always trying to keep things together. I had tried so hard to make it work, but it was never enough. As I stood in the middle of the room, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let him take everything from me. Not my dignity. Not my life. The days that followed were a blur of emotion and confusion. I could hardly sleep, my mind racing with thoughts of what had happened, what I could have missed. The house felt like a stranger's place, and I was a visitor in my own life. Each morning, I found myself sitting at the kitchen table, staring out the window, unsure of what to do next. My hands shook as I tried to go through the motions of normal life, making breakfast, checking the mail, but nothing felt real. It was as if Robert had taken more than just his things, he had taken the life I thought we shared. As the days passed, I started noticing small details, things that didn't add up. A few weeks ago, I had found a receipt tucked into the back of the drawer, a receipt that led to a name I didn't recognize. My curiosity grew, and so did the discomfort in my chest. I started digging deeper, checking old emails and messages, finding clues that I had ignored before. The more I uncovered, the more I realized this wasn't just a sudden decision. Robert had been planning this for a long time. I was just too blind to see it. I never expected to be in this position. All those years of marriage, of building a life together, had led to this moment, an empty house, a shattered trust, and a growing realization that Robert had been living a double life. I sat in the living room, the walls closing in around me as I reread the messages I had found. The texts between Robert and another woman, the plans to sell our house, the lies he had told to everyone around him, it all came into focus like a cruel puzzle I had been too naive to solve. The betrayal stung more than the fall off the cliff. At least then, I didn't know the full extent of what was happening. Now, everything was out in the open. I couldn't ignore it any longer. As I sat there, the weight of his absence felt like a constant pressure on my chest. But something inside me had shifted. The anger and the pain began to turn into something else, something stronger. I wasn't just going to let him take everything from me. This was my life too, and I was done letting him control it. I decided I wasn't going to wait for Robert to come back and explain himself. I wasn't going to sit around feeling sorry for myself anymore. I started taking control, piece by piece, as if every small decision could bring me back to life. I hired a lawyer to handle the financial mess Robert had left behind. I reached out to friends, people I hadn't spoken to in years, and told them what had happened. They were shocked, but supportive. The more I took charge, the clearer my mind became. Every phone call, every document signed, was a small victory. The house was mine, after all, and the life we had built together didn't belong to him alone. I was stronger than I realized. But the real moment of power came when I found out Robert was planning to sell the house and keep the profits for himself. It was his last betrayal. That was when I knew I had to act fast. I wasn't just going to walk away with nothing. I was going to take back everything he had stolen, starting with my own dignity. The day I confronted Robert was one I'll never forget. I had everything I needed, proof of his betrayal, the lawyer's documents, and a new sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I called him, telling him to meet me at the house. He showed up, thinking we would talk things out, but I wasn't interested in making peace anymore. The moment he stepped inside, I knew I wasn't the same person who had once stood by his side, willing to forgive anything. I handed him the paperwork, the one that proved he had no right to sell the house or keep anything. His face paled as he read through it, the arrogance slipping away for the first time in years. For a brief moment, I almost felt pity for him, but then I remembered everything he had done. He tried to apologize, but I wasn't listening. I had made up my mind. As he stood there speechless, I knew the truth, he was no longer in control of anything. This time, it was my turn to walk away with my head held high, knowing that I had taken back what was mine. The weeks that followed felt like a fresh start, even though the pain of the past still lingered in the background. I took control of my own future, making decisions that were mine and mine alone. I fixed the house, something Robert and I had once done together, but now I was doing it for myself. It felt good to see things fall into place, to reclaim the space we had built, piece by piece. Every room, every corner, now felt like a testament to my strength. I started going out more, seeing friends I had neglected, doing things I had put off for years. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. I realized that I had been more than just Robert's wife. I was Sarah, a woman capable of standing on her own. The emptiness I had once felt turned into a quiet sense of pride. I wasn't broken, I was whole again. One day, as I sat in my favorite chair, looking out at the garden we had once tended together, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. The past was behind me, and the future was all mine. It wasn't until I stood in front of the mirror one evening, preparing for a simple dinner with a friend, that I truly realized how far I had come. The woman who looked back at me wasn't the one who had once been so shattered by betrayal. She was strong, confident, and unrecognizable from the person who had cried in the empty house weeks before. I no longer saw myself as someone defined by the mistakes of others. I had rewritten my story, choosing to focus on what I could control, and that made all the difference. The phone rang as I finished getting ready. It was Robert. I could hear the hesitation in his voice, but there was no anger in me. No desire to listen to his apologies or explanations. I didn't need them anymore. I had forgiven him, not because he deserved it, but because I deserved peace. I hung up the phone, took one last look at the house, and walked out the door. I was no longer tied to the past. The future was mine, and I was ready to step into it, knowing I had the strength to face whatever came next.